to call to order the meeting for the Lake Whatcom Reservoir Natural Resources. I'm Pinky Vargas, the chair. Joining me today are Roxanne Murphy, and Jean Knutson is standing in for Terry Borneman. We have one item, it's for information only, and it's a report out from the November 3rd, 2014 Lake Whatcom Policy Group meeting. We were discussing the Lake Whatcom Management Program for 2015-2019 work plan. The goal is to review critical policy questions for the plan, including financing and the process for plan adoption. Our focus for the November 3rd meeting was a review of the HIP program, the Home Improvement Homeowner Incentive Program, confusing my two jobs. The staff are working on 3 reports right now, an accomplishment report to cover the 2010-14 period and the 2015 to 2019 Lake Whatcom Management Program work plan, and also the TMDL response plan. The accomplishments report will be completed by the end of this year. Completing the TMDL response plan is awaiting feedback on the draft plan from the Department of Ecology and the EPA. The draft TMDL plan will be sent by Ecology to the EPA for review this month. The 5-year plan will set out the work activities for the Lake Whatcom program and will also encompass activities taken to achieve compliance with the TMDL. A review draft will be available early next year, and the Lake Whatcom Policy Group will discuss a working draft of the plan in February. The goal is to present the plan to the Joint Councils and Commissions meeting for the adoption in April of 2015. This year represents the last year of the Silver Beach pilot for the HIP program. Over the 2011-14 period of the grant-funded pilot project, 247 lots in the Silver Beach Creek drainage area were assessed, and 127 property owners completed a project paid for by the program. Yahoo! Way to go. Anyway, in the program, our reimbursed expenses were set at a maximum of $6,000 per owner, with reimbursements going up as more phosphorus is removed. Staff are defining the mission for the program going forward, which is to refit residential neighborhoods around Lake Whatcom to decrease unmanaged runoff and phosphorus entering stormwater systems. Our 5-year goals include decreased runoff of phosphorus from residential and private properties in presently untreated areas, and an engaged community of watershed property owners who advocate for and help maintain residential stormwater solutions. And so far, that has been our most powerful ally, is the people in the community sharing their stories. A data-driven program in which resources are directed toward the greatest phosphorus reduction, and a tangible and quantifiable phosphorus reduction benefits for the watershed. Continuation of this program is critical because about 20% of the watershed is accounted for by properties where phosphorus cannot be controlled using public facilities. These include properties abutting the lake that transmit stormwater directly into the lake. One goal of the program in the next 5 years is to see how far things can go using a voluntary program. At some time, shoreline regulations may be part of the mix. The policy group was generally in agreement with the proposed duration of the HIP program, and budget proposed for the next biennium for this program are $200,000 per year for the city and $25,000 per year for the county. As the program evolves, staff are looking to bring additional organizations to help get the word out to assist with projects. So anybody has any great ideas on how we can enhance this program, we're definitely open to hearing that. Staff have developed good relationships with many contractors and will encourage additional participants. Staff will phase in program improvements through the 2015-2016 period. And that is the end of the meeting report. Our next policy group meeting will be on December 1st at 1:30 p.m. in the fireplace room. And these are open to the public, so anyone is free to join us for those meetings. Michael.
Vicky, thank you for that report. Was there any discussion, so as I understand it, the HIP is officially ending, but we're continuing the same program with under the residential retrofit title. And the number chosen in the budget is $200,000 per year. Was some discussion, was that How was that number chosen? Was that chosen based on a 35 or 40-year success cycle for the lake entirely, or did it come from some other place?
John, would you care to address the specifications on the budget?
I can. As we put the budgets together, looking over the course of the next couple of years, recognizing that we will be working into a new paradigm that kind of marries together a investments in small capital solutions, and then the homeowner retrofit side of things. It was real unclear how much money that would be going to either side of that equation. But based on our experience with the HIP program, thought we could spend about $200,000 a year at least in the early stages of developing this program. And as you know, Councilmember Lilliquist, there are some additional monies that are envisioned in out years and have been budgeted in those out years that reallocate some of the retired debt service from the acquisition fund towards residential retrofits. So we'll see how it all sort of plays out, but it seemed about the right amount of money to get us started in the first couple of years.
Excuse me. I guess I understand the wisdom of starting not too much larger than we've already done, but as I see the lake, there are basically three legs to this stool. There's a land preservation, which we've been doing for many years and have preserved, thousands of acres of property. And the county, too, has now preserved acres of property from development. There is stormwater management on public properties. These are large capital projects, our roads and retention and treatment facilities. And the third component, the one we had made the least progress on, is runoff from private properties. And so in my mind, that third leg needs to be equal in size, and $200K is not equal in size. As you say, in the out years, when there's more funding coming, that leg will grow bigger and bigger. It needs to be, in my personal opinion, much larger in the future.
If I may just add a comment about that, one of the things we did discuss in the meeting was the fact that we looked at the acceptance graph in regards to who the early adopters are and how people are progressing and going along, and one of the things we addressed is voluntary. So right now, we're just sort of kind of on the little bit of on the up part of the curve, and just trying to get people to do it on a voluntary basis. So we could put a lot of money out into it, but if no one's going to participate, then that's going to be an equation problem. So one of the big things we talked about for next year is expanding how we talk to the public, how we work with our neighborhoods, and maybe a little bit of flexibility on our actual programs, and see if that helps increase. And if that does do give us a dramatic uptake for next year, then I think that will be something else that we will discuss in regards to me. Roxanne.
I also just want to add that the HIP program really helps us define the problem. What are the household issues? Where is the runoff exactly coming from? So I think funding the HIP program helps us spend our money in a better way, a better understanding of what we can get, a bigger bang for the buck. And so the data and the statistics about who wants to voluntarily comply, who doesn't want to, what the reasons are, that will help us make better investments in the future.
Michael.
Speaking of not getting re-elected, I think we will eventually need to move beyond voluntary. We will exhaust that pool of people. And one of the things that we can do, for example, is start adjusting, and the county as well, adjusting the fee structure so that if you're still contributing to the lake uncorrected, then you might have a heavier stormwater fee, or your surcharge for lake projects may be higher, but those who have volunteered, they qualify for reduced fee structure. So it's not quite a stick, but it's not quite a carrot either. Mm-hmm.
I think everything's on the table right now, and one of the statements in ours is one goal of the program in the next 5 years is to see how far things will go using a voluntary program, and at that point, whether we might have to make some changes. Is that, I think, Jean and the mayor, is that correct?
I'm glad to finally see after all these years that Sudden Valley's represented. Is that going pretty good?
Yeah.
And people that are there, I'm glad to see that. It's long overdue. That's a big swath of homes out there, so I'm glad that. Now, when we have our joint meeting with the county and the lake, with Lake Whatcom Water and Sewer District, will Sudden Valley be invited to that too, or not? They will, okay.
Mayor?
One of the directions to go, so I'm with Michael, and elections are not my thing, so whatever, is a compliance model. And the compliance model makes sure that if anybody that wants to do something can do something. And I really appreciate what Dory Belisle did out on the Nooksack River with the dairy farmers when she got everybody to do something on one stretch of the river rather than 3 people to do something really expensive and everybody else didn't do anything because the protection that we were getting was not cost effective. So the compliance model is the education, technical assistance, incentives, but it's also followed up with enforcement. And so if the city adopts a compliance model that includes enforcement when the time is right to start enforcing, then we have all of the tools necessary, and we're using the least, the easiest to comply with tools first. One of the things, if you talk to Sue Taylor or Sue Blake about this on the education side, is also educating the landscapers that work in the watershed. It'd be really helpful if you were going to ask, if John was a landscaper, which he's not, but and he was going to go work in the watershed, that there would be some different information than you'd use if you were working on Vining Street or wherever. Maybe not. I mean, but and then the other idea is for me is to start closest to the shore and work our way up the hill because that's all running down. But when I was looking at the HIP program, it appeared that it was to completely retrofit your yard is very expensive. To keep water from running off your yard is maybe a little bit less expensive and will not get more voluntary compliance getting, like I said, everybody to do all the way around the lake to do something through education incentives and technical assistance. And then if our lake quality isn't improving, we continue to have a regulatory stick, but we're not focusing on that first, but it's included.
That's very good feedback. Thank you, Mayor. I do know that some of the things that we talked about in that meeting is that maybe a little bit more variance on how we are delivering the HIP program, allowing people to do what they can do and maybe not the whole pie. So that is definitely something that has been up for discussion. So thank you for that. John, is there anything else that you wanted to add on that? No? Anyone else? No? And a committee?